Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Daryl, and I've been a part of the Edges community for a pretty good while. I'll have some more on that later. But today, it's an honor for me to have the opportunity to be serving in this role as a part of the community today. So thank you to the worship planning team and everyone for just letting me be here and have this opportunity to lead in this way today. So I hope that you've had a wonderful holiday season. I hope that you had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you're excited about what the new year will bring as we ring it in tonight at midnight. Before we continue in our conversation today, would you just join me in prayer? Gracious God, we come into this place today carrying loads and loads of stuff, baggage, stuff that keeps our minds off of you. So God, this morning as we listen for your voice and as we wait for you to move and fill this place with your presence, help us to let go. Help us to open ourselves up to whatever it is that you may have for us today. Amen. As we get started this morning, I'd like to present you with a question. So here at Edges, we call worship a conversation because we like to have folks participating in worship, and we want as many voices as possible to contribute to the conversation. So sometimes that may look like asking a question from the front and waiting for people to shout out answers. Other times it could be an open mic opportunity. And other times it looks like an opportunity for us to gather with people around us to talk about a question in small groups. And so this morning, if you're comfortable with it, I'd love to present you with a question or two for you to discuss with some people around you. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that's fine. Feel free to sit back and just listen. So the question, 2017 will be coming to a close this evening, and 2018 will begin whether we want it to or not. So, as you look to the new year, what new possibilities do you see on the horizon? What are some things that might be considered extra baggage that maybe need to be left behind in 2017? So take about 5 minutes. Discuss this with some people around you. If you don't have anyone around you, go find a group of people, introduce yourself. I'm sure they would welcome you to the table. And when the 5 minutes is up, I'll call you back. All right? Go. All right, so your 5 minutes is up. So bring it on back. Okay, so would anyone be willing to share something that they're looking forward to, some new possibilities on the horizon for 2018? A new grandbaby. That's something to look forward to right there. Yeah. What else?
We have peace.
Peace.
And we talked about peace within,
Mm-hmm.
peace within community, peace within nation, peace within all.
So a holistic approach to peace.
The majority goals win.
Yeah. Peace in 2018. I can go with that. Anyone else?
Bring more people to see God's grace.
Bringing in more people to see God's grace. You're getting married, yeah. Oh, the new possibilities. It's great. You'll love it. New life as a baby. So having a baby, that real new life in a very strict sense of the word, new life. Yeah, all the possibilities there too. I mean that in the best way. New years bring about new possibilities. And so something comes to a close, and then something comes into being. So every January 1st, the same thing happens. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter who you are. The new year is coming. It just happens. Now, I feel like that the new year comes at a relatively inconvenient time. There's so much busyness surrounding this time of year. The inconvenience to me is that it just comes at a bad time. There's so much of the previous year that we still need to tend to. And then there's the stress of the possibilities of what a new year brings. For right now, there's the holidays, visiting family, upcoming credit card statements from Christmas, more work to be done at the office, projects that needed to be completed for school, working on finances and taxes to close out 2017. Wouldn't it be nice to just have a few more days in 2017 to just catch up and complete some of those tasks? Or maybe wouldn't it just be great to have a few more days to relax before we have to worry about a whole new year? No one likes to be inconvenienced. But there's some good news. It's often in these inconvenient times that we begin to recognize the God who has been seeking us out from the beginning of time. It happens throughout the Bible. For example, early in the first century, there was a devout Jewish man from a devout Jewish family born in the city of Tarsus, which is in modern-day Turkey. He was known by his Jewish name, Saul. Saul and his family were attached to the Pharisaic tradition of the Jewish faith. And Pharisees were known for their diligent adherence to their interpretation of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And the Torah is known for its many, many, many rules and laws. Today, a Pharisee might be considered a fundamentalist for their beliefs and their literal interpretation of how those laws should be followed. Now, Saul, he was a tent maker by trade. But his reputation came not from his craft, but from the way in which he treated the early Christians. By his own admission, he was part of an early movement to destroy the Christian faith. He persecuted Christians in hopes that he would intimidate them, that he would be able to hinder this rapid expansion of Christ followers. In fact, there's a story found in the Bible where Saul witnesses the murder of one of these early Christians named Stephen. And here's what he says about his involvement. "And while the blood of your witness, Stephen, was shed, I myself was standing by, approving and keeping the coats of those who killed him." Though he may or may not have been one of the people to throw stones that killed Stephen, we know that Saul certainly was not an innocent bystander. And yet somehow, this man ends up writing over 1/3 of the New Testament found in our Bibles. All because, just like the new year, Saul's eyes are open to the God of the cosmos at an inconvenient time. Sometime after the death of Stephen, Saul is sent on a journey to the Syrian town of Damascus. And he was sent with a mandate from a chief religious official of the Jewish faith to go and search for followers of Jesus and to arrest them. Once detained, Saul would be tasked with bringing these Christians back to Jerusalem for trial, imprisonment, and possibly execution. On his journey to Damascus, Saul encounters a blinding light, and he hears a divine voice saying, "Saul, why do you persecute me? I am Jesus, the one whom you are persecuting. Now get up and go to the city, and you will be told what you must do." So Saul follows these instructions, and he meets a Jesus follower named Ananias who helps bring back his sight. And then Saul is forever changed. Becoming Paul, an apostle of Jesus who traveled to great lengths to teach Jesus' message of love, grace, forgiveness, and hope. Change. That's a scary word, isn't it? For whatever reason, change can be difficult for many of us. Maybe it's because we've done something for so long, we've become stubborn and stuck in our ways. Maybe it's because we're stuck, comfortable with the way things are. Or maybe we're simply scared. Change often means encountering the unknown. And it's incredibly scary to encounter something that we've never attempted. And though a new year might come at an inconvenient time in many aspects of our lives, it also provides us with some exciting potential for what could come in the future. The new year brings the possibility of newness. And yes, that scary word, change. Change, transformation, that's what God is in the business of. You see, God takes joy in taking something old, something broken, something misshapen, and turning it into something new. Just like Paul. If God can take this man Saul, known for persecuting Christians, and turn him into Paul, the man who wrote a third of our New Testament and taught the gospel of Jesus, think about what God can do with each and every one of us. Later, in a letter he was writing to the church in the city of Corinth, Paul would write one of his most famous passages. And here's what it says. So we have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. At one time, we thought of Christ merely from a human point of view. How differently we know him now. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone. A new life has begun. And all of this is a gift from God, who brought us back to himself through Christ. And God has given us the task of reconciling people to him. For God was in Christ, reconciling the world to himself, no longer counting people's sin against them. And he gave us this wonderful message of reconciliation. So we are Christ's ambassadors. God is making his appeal through us. We speak for Christ when we plead, come back to God. In this text, Paul is saying that with Christ, we can be made new and we can be made whole again. The old life can be gone, the new life can begin. And we know that Paul is writing from personal experience. He knows that leaving the old is actually possible, that change can really happen. His new life is a testament to what God can do, that God can do great work with us through Jesus. But we have to be open to it. We have to be willing to let God work in us. So maybe there's some stuff that you would like to change for 2018. Maybe you've been clinging to something or someone that's been dragging and weighing you down. Maybe you're in a relationship that's not healthy. Maybe you found yourself being affected by a personal history that you're not proud of. Or maybe you just need something new and refreshing in your life because you're tired and worn out. Well, there's hope. There's hope for all of us because God is in the business of transformation, and God wants us to be open to the ways that God can change us. So change can be really hard, and it can be really scary, but it can also be really powerful. As I mentioned at the beginning of the sermon, I've been a part of the Edges community for a while. Some of you already know this, but I used to stand in this place 2 to 3 times a month. 2 to 3 Sundays a month, working with Kelly and Brian and Jackie and Luke and all the folks who help shape the worship experience on a weekly basis. So I've been a part of the Edges community since its beginning on September 9th, 2012. I was one of the founding pastors, and I was fortunate enough to work with some great people and to have a say in what Edges would be and would become. And let me tell you, I loved being a pastor here. Working with Kelly on a daily basis and thinking about the ways that this community could grow and bring about positive change in the Blacksburg community and the community beyond was a joy. Hearing new and fresh ideas from our worship planning team made preparations for Sunday fun and enjoyable. And as someone who loves and appreciates really, really good music, being surrounded by such amazing musicians and worship leaders was just incredible. And on top of that, my family and I have made some of the best friends in the world because of Edges. This place, this community has been a constant and solid reminder of love and hope to us. Edges stretched me in my relationship with God and with God's people, and for that I am forever grateful. But about 3 years into that journey together, something started to change in me. It felt as though God was trying to tell me something new could be on the horizon. And it hit me on Christmas Day while driving to North Carolina with my pregnant wife and our son asleep in the car. And it was crazy. It was almost surreal. It didn't feel like it was actually happening. And I was scared out of my mind. I'd been working in the church my whole adult life. Part of it as a youth pastor and then as an Edges pastor. So what would I do? I didn't know anything else. And so for a lengthy amount of time, I met with some people that I trusted and who I knew cared for me and my family. They gave me advice. They prayed for me. They gave me tissues. They listened to me. And over time, I came to the conclusion that my time at the church was ending. And that first step meant stepping away from Edges. That decision was harder than I ever could have imagined. Leaving Edges in that way felt like I was leaving behind a child. And even though I knew things would continue to move on and Kelly and everyone else would do awesome, incredible things here, I felt like I was letting people down. But I also knew for my own sanity it had to be done. So I had to close the door. Now I know what you might be thinking. Well, there's that old saying, when God closes a door, God opens a window. So first off, I just have to question the theology of this statement. Why is God closing doors on me? I thought God loved me. That doesn't seem like a very nice thing for God to do. And then all God can do is crack a window? And secondly, when the door is closed and there is no light shining through the cracks, it is terrifying. Like the kind of terrifying that has you staying up at night wondering how you're going to take care of your family type of terrifying. But I was going to trust that God could bring something new into my life. And I was committed to trust no matter how hard it was. And I believed that God was going to continue to walk with me stride for stride throughout the entire process. So I kept meeting with those folks that loved and trusted, and eventually, after missing out on a couple of opportunities, something new came to me. And it happened very quickly. A job opened up at Virginia Tech, and that would allow me to pursue my passion for leading and developing students. And so I had to jump at the chance. And this new job has been transformational for me. My old self, though not completely gone away, is now part of my past. And the new Daryl is learning from mistakes and trying to embrace the newness that God has put before me. Now, it's a process because change is always a process. And God started the process in me, but it was up to me to accept and trust that God was actually at work. And today I feel free and inspired to help others reach their potential. So here's what I want you to know for today. God is committed to the transformation process in all of us. Now, I'm not saying you need to go and quit your job and just tell God to go find you something new, because that is terrible advice. But if you're needing change in that area of your life so you can be made whole again, maybe now's the time to start looking for something different. All I'm saying is that God may be tugging at your heartstrings, ready to lead you to something new and refreshing, and that can be in any part of your life. Relationships, career, faith life. Whatever it may be, listen to what God may be wanting to do with you. Trust that God will be with you in the change and always work to move forward. But you might be thinking, I can't change. That's too scary. I can't do that. Or maybe you're thinking, I won't change. That's a lot of work that I'm just not prepared to take on right now. So if you're thinking that, let me say this. It's one thing to believe in God, and that's a very, very good thing. But it's a completely different and transformational thing to believe that God believes in you. God believes in you and your potential for transformation, to bring about something new in you. And to end, I'll quote one of my favorite songs from the late 1990s. The song Closing Time by Semisonic, one-hit wonder. But there's one line in this song that I think is extremely profound. It says, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Some things have to end for the new to come into being. Some things have to die to make room for the newness to sprout up. And God will be there along the way, especially when we are ready to close those doors of the past and let God work in us so that we can be made new. Will you pray with me? God, so often we are caught up in all the stuff in our life that it's easy to miss out on you. Remind us of your promises that you will be with us even when things are hard. You never leave our sides. God, as we are about to begin a new year with so many new possibilities, help us to trust that you can still work in us. Help us to see the good things that you have in store for us. God, help us to trust, even when the skies look gray and dark. You're there. You'll never leave because you love us. Amen. Normally during this time we take communion, but I'm no longer allowed to do that. So I thought maybe for a nice little piece of reflection as our worship leaders sing and center us, that on your table there's little slips of paper that just say, for me, 2017 was fill in the blank. Maybe it was awful. Maybe it was terrible, and you're just so glad it's going to be over. Or maybe it was amazing, and you don't want it to go away. Whatever that may be. Then on the other side, it says, I hope 2018, I hope that in 2018, I can what? The possibilities are endless. And we can trust that God will be with us in those times. And so hold on to that as a reminder. Put it in a book somewhere of what 2017 was like and what 2018 can be like for us. Because God can transform us and bring some really great newness into our lives.